You're listening to the Geriatric Mamas podcast with Jessica Raziri
and Sonia Tapley.
Considering men are already biologically like 3 to 5 years younger than a woman, if they're like the same age, like 40, then the man's gonna act 35 to like 30. I feel like it's a scientific proven fact, I feel. So like if he's already odds are already against you if you're the same age. He's already younger than you. So then if he's like younger than you for real, then you just need to add plus 10, 15 years to that. And that's his real biological age.
Right.
It's science.
I'm feeling like it's like there are other dating apps out there, so I'm really looking forward to that.
I don't know that it's much different because I went out to dinner with a girlfriend this past weekend and I was talking to her about it and I was telling her about my little blip of experience with Facebook dating, and she's just like, oh yeah, it's not great. And then I was like, oh, like Facebook dating? She's like, in general. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, but are like there are other apps that are better? And she's just like, they're a little better. She's like, but they're all basically the same.
Okay,
so like
everybody using AI to make themselves look like a Disney character or Renaissance character or like period character, like what's happening? Or like a lion.
I should have AI create it so that I look like Khaleesi and I have dragons, like my dragon babies around me, and I'm just sitting on like
your phone will be dinging like off the hook. You're gonna have to block everything from your phone if you do that.
Like, I'm here, guys. The mother of dragons has arrived. Bow down.
Why is this like giving World of Warcraft now?
I dated somebody who was obsessed with World of Warcraft, and I will never do that again. That is literally probably one of my questions. Like early on when you play the whole questions game, why can't I talk? Getting to know someone. It's going to be, how do you feel about World of Warcraft? And if they're like, oh, I'm into it, I'm all about fighting that boss, I'm going to be like, okay, bye. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah. There are people who don't shower.
I know. They wear diapers. They don't shower. They just sit there like ordering snacks to their computer and
it's usually Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Like the different colors of Mountain Dew, like the blue Mountain Dew and like the weird kinds of Doritos that aren't the real kind of Doritos.
No. I just think of that South Park episode where they made fun of World of Warcraft, and it could not be more spot on. That's a 1000% the situation. To the point where like we would have plans to go out with friends, actual plans where people are meeting us. I'm dressed, ready to go, and homeboy is sitting there in his fucking boxers on his ripped up computer chair with his legs up like a fucking frog.
Ew.
Like full on World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Headset, headgear. It was awful. It was really awful.
Wait, but so we both, okay, so I didn't realize you actually went through this. Maybe we talked about it, but okay, so who was it?
Michigan.
I didn't know that about Michigan.
Oh, I hid that from everybody. I wasn't going to fucking talk about it.
Things you hide from your friends and family. It's like, oh yeah, I'm with a real loser, but I'm going to present him like...
Because it's embarrassing AF. Fake it till you fucking make it. I'm not going to disclose that.
Who wants to stay with somebody who's embarrassing as fuck?
Well, I didn't. If you recall, I left him. Well, you didn't know that was happening, but I left him literally. It was like weeks later. I moved back home.
Well, I'm not just talking about him, but
and that was it.
We can move on.
Yeah, I know. It's because I'm an Aquarius. It's what I do. I detach from reality.
To torture, and then you hide it from everybody who cares about you.
I basically disassociate that it's happening. I'm just like, this isn't real.
I think this needs to be studied. I think you need to be studied.
You're like, actually, this isn't a zodiac situation.
Right,
I think this is a mental illness.
Right, I think this is actually a problem. Like, no big deal. Like, no big deal.
So, yeah, apparently my brain needs to be studied. Speaking of brains being studied, I just watched a documentary last night that was so good. It's on Hulu. It's called My Grandfather is Charles Manson.
Ooh.
It's really good. It's really interesting. Towards the end, spoiler alert, towards the end, they basically compare this girl's, I don't know what is the word. It's like her her results from this like test that she did, the psychological test she did. Whereas like her grandfather answered things very like black and white, very abruptly or whatever. She had more of an empathetic and softer approach to her responses. But there was one question that they answered exactly the same. And
What?
nobody else was like answering it that way. It was like one of those what do you see questions. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like you look at it and it didn't look like that at all. She said, it looks like a man, I see a man with a mustache. And her grandfather was like, it looks like a silly man with a mustache and glasses and blah, blah. And he gave like something else, whatever. But the fact that it was like, that's what they both see,
Yeah.
like, so there's clearly some kind of like whatever, but she was basically all worried that she was like going to end up being this horrible person. Maybe she shares like the same like genetic trait that he did of being this psychotic killer or horrible asshole. And her father is, though. Her father's like crazy, but that's a whole other thing that they cover. But I don't know. It's really fascinating. The human brain really just like is so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I should probably be studied. Well, speaking of psychosis, we have a big one to cover today. I sent you a ton of reels.
Mm-hmm.
It's trending right now. It's the Lindsay Clancy case. So
Yeah.
when I first saw this pop up on my feed, I was like, "Ugh, it's like another bitch that murdered her children. I can't. Like I have a hard time with those stories. Not that like I mean murder is murder. It's not that like any story is great or fascinating, but like when it comes to children, it's just it hits harder. And also too, it's like you put yourself in that mother's position and I'm like I could not imagine. I would kill myself before I would ever think of harming my child. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's hard for me to understand those situations and I'm so
Mm-hmm.
thankful that I don't understand those situations, but looking into the case more, I'm like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this isn't a black and white situation.
Yeah.
And what she did was wrong, 1000%. But there's a lot of layers to it that need to be talked about. And
Mm-hmm.
so, one is the subject of postpartum psychosis
Yeah.
being a real thing. And honestly, I never even heard that term in my entire
Right.
life.
Yeah.
So it's scary, but
Right.
it sounds like that could be a really real situation. So the trial is going on right now. It's happening in real time right now. And I think they anticipate it to still be happening for like another week or so,
Yeah.
maybe another 2 weeks. But for those of you that aren't familiar with the case, this is just a quick overview. There, I know I'm going to be missing a lot of points. Don't come after me. This is not a true crime podcast. Like we have another subject we're trying to get to this. But basically, this woman was a labor and delivery nurse.
Delivery.
She had 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And after the birth of her last child, she started acting differently and she started feeling differently. And she did ask for help. She
Mm-hmm.
communicated. She did all the things that you're told to do. She called hotlines. She told therapists. She told her doctors. She told her husband. She told basically anybody that would listen. She also was logging it in a diary that she was not okay and that she was having suicidal thoughts and that she was thinking of all these things. She even communicated to her husband that she was having thoughts of wanting to harm her babies.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an uncomfortable thing to say and share and admit. And the fact that she did is huge and it's good and it needed to be taken very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And what was happening was every time she would communicate a new issue or a new problem that she was having, she was thrown another medication, she was written another prescription. Basically, they just kept putting band-aid after band-aid after band-aid. And she was literally the list of medications that this woman was on
Mm-hmm.
was crazy. And it
Yeah.
was like one would interfere with the other. One of them was basically can cause seizures. It's like a seizure reducing medication, but when you stop it abruptly, like it can actually cause a seizure. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're just like crazy medications to the point where she wasn't liking how they were making her feel, so she admittedly wasn't taking them. And she would even log in her diary, like, I'm not taking this, I'm not taking this, I don't like how this makes me feel. So she wasn't really taking her medications. And, you know, she's reaching out for all this help. And then one day her husband leaves the house to go get takeout. And it was the whole trip total, I guess, should have only taken him about 45 minutes. And when he gets back, he sees Lindsay. Well, first, I guess he gets back and he goes in the house and he doesn't see his wife, doesn't see the kids. He goes upstairs and then he sees that the bed was moved, and I think he might have seen some blood.
Yeah, like pools of blood.
Yeah, he looks out the window. He sees his wife on the ground. He runs outside to her. He immediately calls 911. He's freaking out. The 911 call, they refused to let the cameras capture the call because it was just so horrific. There's this transcript of it, but it's just awful. And in the entire time, he's like, Lindsay, stay with me, stay with me. Where are the kids? Where are the kids? What happened? Where are the kids? And she's like in the basement. And so paramedics finally arrive and he runs down to the basement, and apparently you can hear on the 911 call, he's just like a mess. He's freaking out. He's like going crazy. He just sees all three babies murdered. I think they were strangled. And Lindsay was also like, I think, suffering hypothermia. She basically blew her frickin' spine out. She's now paralyzed from the chest down. I think she had like slit her wrist and then threw herself out the window. And the youngest, the baby, I think he was like, what, 3 months old or whatever. I guess they did resuscitate him a little bit, but it wasn't enough to keep him. And then he ended up passing. And so, yeah, so that's where we are. And so it's truly a case of, it's not a case, there's a lot of conspiracy theories right now of, it is very questionable of, you know, could she have really done all that in 45 minutes? And Lindsay herself has admitted that she did it. She has admitted openly, like, yes, I did this, and she sobs and she's just a mess about it. But there are some conspiracy theories that I do think deserve some attention to look at and like figure out like what the hell, because it is very strange that it's like, you're telling me in 45 minutes he had time, like in the time it took him to drive down to the place, get their takeout and come back, 45-minute trip, that she had time to murder all three babies, move the bed, slit her wrist, throw herself out of the window of this 2-story house, and basically start the stages of hypothermia before he gets there.
Yeah, it's a lot because the way that the children were killed was by strangulation with her exercise bands. So I don't know, and I've heard some videos say that he was gone for 25 minutes and not 45, so I'm like, okay. First of all, that is a big difference in time. 20 minutes is a big difference. However, 45 minutes is still...
It's still not enough
time for... Because he said that there was so much blood in the bedroom that it looked like somebody had taken a garden hose and just sprayed blood. And that was from her, not from the children.
Right.
So she strangles each of the children. I'm sure that took a lot of effort, a lot of work, like, obviously. And one of them was 5. The oldest was 5. The other one was probably around 2 or 3, and then 9 months old. So, like, I can't imagine keeping everybody under, control. Like, I don't know. I can't.
Yeah.
But you've got 2 kids who are very easily up and around walking. And 5-year-olds are strong. Girls and boys are strong. You know, so it's like, I cannot imagine that this would have been within 25 to 45 minutes for these kinds of things. I mean, obviously we're not there. We don't know, we don't know how physically capable she is as a person. Like, we don't know what actually happened. But then for her to bleed out that much, so that there was that much blood. He said there was a big pool of blood, and then it looked like somebody had used a garden hose to spray the room. So it's like, That's a lot of blood, and then she throws herself out the window.
Yeah.
And then has time to come down with hypothermia. Now, I mean, if you're losing a ton of blood, I think your body does go into hypothermia anyway, regardless of being cold. But, I mean,
And
if
it
you
did
lost...
happen in January on the East Coast in
Yeah.
Massachusetts, which, like, we know, it's like awful, like below zero
Yeah.
temperatures.
And then also, if she's lost that much blood, if she's lost that much, how did she get herself out the window?
Right. There's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of speculation that the husband was involved more than what he's saying he was. And the thing is like we don't know what happened. It's still literally in the middle of the trial and like maybe he wasn't and like this is horrifying to point the finger at truly a victim that lost his wife, lost his children. That's awful. But I mean, I'm not a mather, but it just feels like the math ain't mathing. It just feels a little sus. So
Right.
and it's just,
Plus, there's the affair, or rumors of an affair, because he's already married to somebody else. And then,
is he married?
yeah. Well,
Oh,
according to one of the videos I watched, I think he's married. He might not be married. He might just be in a serious relationship, living with her. But in his trial, I watched part of it yesterday while I was getting ready, and they're asking him questions about the things that Lindsay was telling him, before everything happened. And they were asking him, like, did Lindsay ever tell you that she was depressed? Yes. I think so. Like, his answers were very much like, yes, I think so. And then they asked him, did Lindsay ever tell you that she was hearing voices? And he said, I can't recall. I mean, maybe, but I really can't recall. And his voice just sounded so unempathetic. Like,
yeah.
it sounded like he had no care in the world when he was saying this. Like, I mean, maybe, but I can't recall. I can't really
Yeah.
recall. Now, if your wife or your husband is telling you that she's hearing voices, don't you want to know what those voices are telling her? Like, don't you want to know if they're telling her to harm? Like, you have 3 children living under
Right.
the roof with both of you that you need to keep safe. Like, I can't imagine telling Mike, I'm hearing voices, and then him not taking that seriously,
Yeah.
you know? And I was even telling him about like the part of his testimony that I heard, and he's like, "So what you're saying is he just didn't give a shit?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "It kind of sounds like he either didn't give a shit about what she was saying, or that he just didn't believe her. Like
Right.
he was just brushing it under the rug, and like now there's the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it kind of just sounds like one of those two options at least."
Mm-hmm. So I don't know about you, but had you ever heard of the term postpartum psychosis before this whole thing?
Don't think so.
Yeah, me neither. And I mean it's not common. It's very rare. It's like we've had a couple postpartum episodes now where we've talked about depression and then like there's postpartum anxiety and but there's so many different branches of that and one of them it's very rare. But postpartum psychosis is a severe mental health emergency affecting 1 to 2 out of every 1,000 women after childbirth. It starts suddenly, usually within the first 2 weeks, causing a loss of touch with reality, hallucinations, delusions, extreme confusion, and rapid mood swings. Immediate medical help and hospital care are required. So, common symptoms hallucinations, seeing, hearing, or smelling things that are not real, delusions, strong false belief not based in reality, severe confusion, disorientation and disorganized thinking, mood shifts, extreme highs, mania, or lows, depression that quickly change, insomnia, inability to sleep even when exhausted. Risk factors and causes. Bipolar disorder, personal or family history of bipolar disorder greatly increases the risk. First pregnancy, being a first time mother is a common risk factor. Biological triggers, sudden hormonal, physical, and immune changes after birth. Sleep loss, extreme lack of sleep can trigger or worsen symptoms. Treatment and recovery. Emergency hospital care, Patients need immediate inpatient safety and monitoring. So, like, if you suspect that this is a thing at all, it needs to immediately be addressed. Like, that is how severe this is. Medication, doctors use mood stabilizers, antipsychotics, or other specialized drugs. So, it sounds like in Lindsay's case, that's just what they were doing. They were just immediately throwing medication at it. Electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, used in severe cases when medication is not fast or effective enough. Full recovery with quick medical treatment. The condition is temporary and fully treatable. So, and then they give like a disclaimer. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger or experiencing a crisis, please call 911 or your local emergency services right away. The thing is that like she did all of that. She did all of that. And if this is real, if this is what was going on, and honestly, like I've read enough and heard enough that I do believe, like based on what I've been reading, that that is what was going on. The system fucking failed her. She literally reached out and she had those uncomfortable conversations saying the thoughts that she was having, and she went ignored. She was thrown another pill when really what she needed was to be committed. And she knew that.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's important to note that this is a bigger situation. This is a bigger issue. And if nothing comes out of this case, out of this, what I really hope comes out of this is awareness of mental health and support that new moms need after having babies. Because the US is ass backwards when it comes to maternity leave and what is truly needed with healing. Because it's not just physical, it is very much mental. Very much mental. Like the mother is literally, her whole like mental state is biologically different after having a child, and it takes a long time. 1 to 2 years. Other countries give mothers a year minimum of maternity leave to bond with their baby, find their new mental state, learn who they are again, and learn how to like go back into to society, because they understand the mental condition of like what that does to a mother's brain. There was an attorney that was speaking out about this that was saying that I think there's like countries and there's some states that still do this. They still like practice this law, but there's a lot of countries that if a mother, this is awful, this is so dark, but I mean, this is what we're talking about. If a mother ends up killing their child within the first year, it falls under the category of some kind of mental breakdown. Just
you know.
But yeah. So it's not, I mean, it's still fucking murder, right? It's still horrible, but the punishment is basically then looked at of like, okay, she needs to be in a mental institution, not prison. Like, you know, like she needs extra help. Because they link it to this is probably what happened. And there, for a while in the US, a lot of states also adhered to that. And then they did away with it. I believe Massachusetts still does have that clause. So there's a chance that for the youngest child, that would be a lesser sentencing, or she would be committed based off of that one. But the other two would be classified as just flat out murder. Which, let me be clear, it's all murder. This is just such a great, it's such a fine line, because I'm like, I'm not sitting here saying that like she's not to blame and she's this angel and all this stuff, but I am addressing that this is real. Like postpartum psychosis is real, and it's easy to sit here with my healthy mental state of mind and say I would never do that. And it's like, right, because you're not mentally unstable.
Right.
So good for you. Do you want a fucking sticker? Awesome.
Yeah. And it was also I can't remember if it was the psychologist or who, I can't remember, but somebody was saying that it might have been her husband, but they were asking when she had to go back to work for each child. And right after the first one, she had like 10 to 12 weeks, which is a little bit longer because I think for most people it's like 8 weeks allotted by like the state. So she was back in like 10 to 12 weeks, but she had a really hard time going back to work because she had anxiety around leaving the baby. And I mean, that's natural, that's normal, especially at 12 weeks. It's normal for you to feel, you know, some kind of way about going back to work and leaving your baby. And then after the second one, her second child was breech, and she gave birth to him vaginally while
What?
yeah, so I have no idea how that happened.
She could have died.
Right, I have no
Oh my
idea.
God.
I guess
Ow.
according to her husband, she was torn, very torn, bruised. She was in bad shape after giving actual vaginal birth to her son, breech. And so her body, that she had 12 weeks of maternity leave after him.
That's it? After him?
After him, she had 12 weeks, and her body had recovery. She had another child at home, plus she was taking care of a newborn. And her husband had 2 weeks for each child. Her husband was only home for 2 weeks. And then you have the third child, and she had anxiety going back to work after that. She was anxious about leaving him as well. Like, she didn't want to leave her children. But she went back to work, and then for her third child, didn't say anything about the birth and it being traumatic or anything, but she had, I think, 12 weeks for him as well. And then that's when, you know, things started going really crazy. Like you said, like she wasn't sleeping very well. She was exercising a lot, and then she was exercising on top of exercising a lot. And then she started the business, like, what is it called? I think it's like a pyramid. It's
The multi-level marketing.
yeah, the multi-level marketing. She started that. So like all of this kind of goes in line with like the postpartum psychosis, especially because it can mimic some of the bipolar behaviors where they're just like they're like manic.
Yeah.
Or like overly tired and just run down. And so they had the nanny on the stand. I think it was like either today or yesterday, but I watched the video. And so they hired the nanny after the baby was born because she was still planning on going back to work, I guess. So she had a really good relationship with the nanny. Everything was great. They didn't talk a whole lot about her psychosis or like being tired or anything. But towards like the end of the time that the nanny was with them, she did start telling her that she wasn't sleeping very well. She was extremely tired. And sometimes the nanny would watch all 3 kids instead of just the baby. And then she told the nanny that she wasn't going to be going back to work. And then that's when they let the nanny go. But they still remained in touch, and they still had a great relationship. So the nanny, being inside the home, there weren't a whole lot of signs that anything was really going wrong, except for the things that she would tell her here and there. So like she can fully operate like everything is fine. This is something that the psychologist said, is that people can operate like they're completely fine while they're going through psychosis.
Yeah.
So it's
because that's part of it, because they're also they're like fighting that inner demon.
Yeah.
They're trying to like be like, no, I'm okay. Like, I love my babies. I love my life. I love, you know, everything. It's okay. And they're trying to maintain that like outward persona that everything's okay. And then when it's like they're in their darkest of darkest moments, that's when they are like, I need help. And unfortunately, it's like, I think maybe it's a situation where because everything was painted as picture perfect in the moment, like for a while, when they do reach out, it's maybe not taken as severe as it needs to be, because it's like, well, you were just great yesterday. So what do you mean you need help and everything's dire right now, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because I've been hiding it. I've been faking it till I make it. Like,
then you add in like the hormones and stuff too. She was going to start taking her medications. She wasn't taking them because she was breastfeeding the third child.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So you add in the fact that at 9 months, somewhere around 9 months, approaching 9 months, she was going to stop breastfeeding so she could start taking her medications that she was prescribed. I think she was only going to take the last 2 that were prescribed to her, which were like the antidepressant and then the fallback for the antidepressant. Because like sometimes when you first get onto an antidepressant, it can make you have suicidal thoughts. So there's like another medication that you have to take when you're going through something like psychosis or bipolar disorder. You have to take
Yeah.
a backup medicine to prevent you from having those suicidal thoughts. So she was like in the process of getting onto those medications, but I'm not sure if she was actually taking them yet because she was still breastfeeding.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to finish that whole interview. But so she wasn't actually taking all of the medications that she was being prescribed because she was breastfeeding. So
Mm-hmm.
she was like, I don't want my baby getting these medications and I want to keep breastfeeding. So
Right.
yeah, but then you
Yeah.
add in the fact that like there's hormone fluctuations when you're coming down from breastfeeding. There's
Right.
also hormones fluctuating as you restart your cycle. So she, who knows? She could have been going into her luteal phase.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to research. We don't. Nobody's talked about her cycle
I
yet.
know.
Surprise, surprise! I haven't heard any mention of where she was at in her cycle.
Yeah. Let's just go with the belief that she was suffering postpartum psychosis, right? So if that's true, then that means she basically kind of had this out of body experience and
Hmm.
shit went black and she
Hmm.
just acted on it. That would mean that she might not fully understand what she did. She knows she
Hmm.
did it, but she doesn't understand how or what or the details or anything leading up to it. And so, if that were true, then that would mean that in court, as they're sharing all the details, it's also kind of the first time she's hearing it too.
Hmm.
And so, like, that's when she just fell apart and was sobbing so much that they called for a break.
Hmm. Can you like? She might not remember much of it.
I don't think she does. I've followed a lot of cases. Like I said, I usually try to avoid the ones that are about kids because I feel like in these situations, a lot of them are very similar. It's all the same, like Andrea Yates. And like, it's just, God, it's usually like, well, they were mad about this. And so they did this. Or it's just some crazy, like unjustifiable situation. But this is the first case that I've paid attention to. I'm not saying it's the first one. It's the first one that I've been made aware of and I've paid attention to that is striking a familiar chord because it's just landing very close. It's hitting close because it's about a topic that's near and dear to us that
Hmm.
we've been pretty vocal about.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, yeah, it's just hitting different. And
Hmm.
so I don't know.
Like the fact that too, like I have to like hold myself back from like saying a lot about it because my brain keeps going towards like the husband was just so nonchalant about not knowing the answers to the questions when they were asking him the questions about what his wife said to him about her psychosis. It's like, I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't, and it's like, how do you not recall that the woman you call your wife, who is the mother of your children, who is living with them in charge of their care and their safety, how do you not recall? How is there no responsibility there? It's
Yeah.
insane to me. It's insane that this woman was like she had so many doctors and then like if I had that many doctors, I know Mike would be like checking in with me. Like because not just because of me, but because of our child.
Right. And
It's
also the whole like I don't recall. There were like a couple doctors, but there was like one in particular. She's such a freaking bitch. Sorry, I'm just gonna say it. But they get her on stand and they're like, you treated Lindsay, you did XYZ or whatever. And she's just like, well, I'd have to look at my notes. I don't recall. I'd have to look at my notes. I don't recall. Every single question that they asked directly. And it's like, lady, you knew you were going on stand. Why
right.
wouldn't you have reviewed your notes
Already reviewed
before?
your notes. Yeah.
Like you know the answers.
They
And then
know.
miraculously, when the prosecution has her on stand asking her similar questions, but phrased a little differently, she suddenly has memory of all these things and doesn't once have to refer to her notes. It's like funny how that works.
Did she actually have her notes with her?
No.
Oh my,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah. Also, too, I wonder, was it Lindsay's handwriting that said slept well, slept well, slept well, because in her journal entries, she goes on in great lengths to how the fact that she hasn't slept in days and she's not sleeping and she's feeling like delusional and like brain fog and she can't function and how miserable she
Yeah.
is. But
I
then,
know.
like, next to like all the logs of the medication, slept well, slept well, slept well. So either she was just filling that in to like avoid further questioning about it, or he was writing that in.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
No,
But
that was
that's
unclear.
just,
That
yeah,
was
that's
unclear.
interesting.
Right.
It's like, was this just to appease
The
people because she
doctors.
was feeling like she wasn't being taken seriously? So she's like, I don't want to be thrown on another medication. So, like, let me just say I slept well, and then maybe
Right.
they'll do something
Right.
different. I don't know. But yeah, that was like one of the first things that I was like, wait a second. Like, you're literally going off talking about how you haven't slept in days, this and that, you can't sleep, all the stuff. But then, like, in your log, slept well, slept well, slept well. Like, I'm just, what? Like, it's just
Yeah,
weird.
I don't know, because I was looking at in the nanny's testimony, there were a few examples of her handwriting. So there was like that because she was, I think, letting the nanny see that, or it was all in the same notebook or something. But she had some communication to her nanny about like things to do with the kids and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe it was that, or maybe it was her psychologist. But the handwriting to the nanny, like the notes to the nanny, was like bigger, bubblier, and then the notes where it was like it was just very like concise. The ones that said slept
Yeah.
well, slept well, slept well. It was very concise and only like 2 lines each day. It was very consistent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, it's
So
just like, like
very
just
consistent. It was all
autopilot.
within, yeah, and it was
Yeah.
all with very much within the lines, but it also did look like a girlier handwriting. It didn't look like a man's handwriting. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it could have been her that was filling it in, but it could have been like I said, maybe she
She's
just felt
typing
like,
it.
yeah, like it was just not being taken seriously, and every time she would indicate that, well, I wasn't sleeping or whatever, she was thrown on something else. They had
Hmm.
her on anti-seizure meds, sleep meds, anti-anxiety meds, antidepressant meds, meds for being bipolar, meds for like all these different fucking things. Like every single time she would like say, this is what's happening, I need help, they would throw something else at her. So maybe that prompted her to just be like, everything's great, cool, but like this is still happening, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and the psychologist said that they're able to see what medication she's been prescribed and by who, as long as I think it's all within the same system. They're heavily reliant on the patient telling them what they're actually taking
Yeah.
because there's obviously no way to monitor that. So, and like her husband, I guess at one point, I think after everything happened, was able to go into her medication and see that there was only like one pill gone from one prescription, one pill gone from like another, so she wasn't actually taking the medication.
Right.
And I know that one of the reels that I watched said that she had taken a bunch of pills before or after she slit her wrists. So who knows, that one pill that was missing could have just been the day that everything happened.
True. That's a good point. Online, like everybody that's following this case, they're just, a lot of women are just like screaming about this because we've been for a long time trying to be very vocal about the whole system when it comes to parental leave and what women's bodies go through and what they truly need. And it's just, America has just a really fucked up
Yeah.
vision of like what that actually needs to be. It goes against biology, it goes against everything. And I just hope that this is a wake up call, that like it's actually not, and it's actually a real thing. And like I said, like she did all the right things. She had those uncomfortable conversations and it just went in deaf's ears. Like people just ignored her.
Even her husband,
Yeah.
the father, even the father of her children.
I am curious though to see how this plays out because it's like I don't know, the whole timing thing is just very bizarre to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's just, what I wonder was like, was he more involved with it?
Right.
Like what if again, this is a theory. We don't know. This is like it could be a conspiracy theory at this point. We don't know. Hypothetical. But like, what if you've seen the movie The Girl on the Train,
Yeah.
where it's like her husband like gaslit her so much that she actually believed that she was this crazy alcoholic and all this shit, but really like he was an abusive piece of shit having an affair. What if it's a similar situation to that? What if
Yeah.
he took advantage of the fact that she was fucking not in the right headspace? He knew he was having an affair. He wanted to get rid of her. And what if he actually gave her something to make her black out or not be aware of what was happening? And he did all of this and threw her out the window. And then she woke up convinced that she did all of this.
I mean, that would make sense. And
Yeah.
also, okay, so there's another thing that's just not lining up to me. The amount of nonchalance and just like lack of empathy in his question answering in court versus the initial 911 call emotion. Now, at that point, he supposedly does not know that his children are dead in the basement. So that, and his wife had supposedly been telling him that she had had suicidal thoughts and that she had been hearing voices. So, recall or don't recall, she had said it. So, he gets home and all he knows for sure is that she tried to commit suicide. And that's his 911 call. It's so awful that, like, they can't play it. Like, I'm sorry, sir. You were that moved by the fact that your wife, who you knew had suicidal thoughts, tried to commit suicide, and you didn't yet know that your children were dead, and you were that nonchalant in court about these voices. Like, it doesn't line up to me.
Yeah, it's not adding up.
Especially since there's the rumor of the affair, and he might have been with another woman the entire time that this was like, it doesn't, his shock and craziness and his grief during the 911 call just doesn't make sense to me because supposedly he doesn't yet know that his children are dead.
Right.
So something just doesn't add up to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I feel like that's definitely something that should be considered because it's like this man knew his wife had suicidal thoughts. He was most likely having an affair and he didn't know his children were dead. And all he knew at that point was that his wife had jumped out the window.
Right.
And he was that upset. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's very strange. They also like called him out on the fact that it was like, so, you know, the defense was like, so she told you that she was hearing voices in her head. She was fearing that she was going to harm the children. And you turned around and left her. You left the children in her care for a weekend. Is that correct? And he tried dancing around it, but they got him to finally say yes. And they're like, and where did you go? He went to fucking New York. And where is his new girl like from? New York. So it's just interesting. And it's like, I'm sorry, but like if my significant other is telling me that they're hearing voices and they're thinking of harming my children, I'm not leaving them in your fucking care. And if I do have you around, I'm having somebody else in the house and around with you to supervise. Like, I'm not just being like, oh, okay, that's cute. Well, by the way, I'll be back on Monday. Like, so hope everything's good. No. And it's just interesting where he went because it's like, oh, that's fascinating.
Right. Did he say he was going there for work?
Yeah, he implied that it was for work, but it was over the weekend. It was a long weekend. So, like, what are you doing over the weekend, work-wise?
Right. Which begs the question, did she know that something was going on?
Right. And that's another theory was like, well, did she find out about the affair and freak out? Does that put her into a huge, like,
Extra
break?
spiral.
Right. Like, who knows? But I don't know. She might have, and I'm sure that probably didn't help the situation. She might have suspected. I don't know. Like, unless this was like a long, drawn out plan on her part to then be like, and then I'll, you know, be able to prove that it was postpartum psychosis because I'm showing all these symptoms. And it was a long, drawn out plan over the past year of journal entries. I don't think so. I don't.
You've seen people who had those plans in true crime stories, and
You do, but
She has so
like
much more emotion.
she does. That's why I'm not believing it, because it's like it takes a certain person to be a labor and delivery nurse as well.
Yeah.
So like I just don't see it like that. I don't think this
Right.
was a long
No.
plan. I think yeah, I
It's evident that she loved her children.
right. I'll be very interested to see how this plays out and what else comes out. The defense, she so far seems to have a really good team working on her behalf. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be interesting to see what else comes out, because the husband is not doing himself any favors right now. Like he's
No,
just looking like an idiot.
he's not even trying. And then I haven't seen her parents on anything yet, but apparently she was trying to get, after she came out of her surgery for her back, like her broken back, apparently she was trying to get her proxy. She was trying to get it switched over from her husband to her parents.
That's interesting.
Right, because she felt, I think she just felt like obviously things were done with her and her husband at that point.
Yeah.
So she wanted her parents to be in control. And she also tried to get a DNR. So, like, if she didn't make it out of everything, then she just didn't want to be resuscitated. She just wanted to be let go. So she was trying to get her parents to take over her decision making for her health. So that all seems fishy too, because like if she wanted to be a DNR, then do you think, like, would her husband keep her alive just out of spite so she could go to jail in a wheelchair? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all very strange to me, but she was very adamant about getting that switched over. Like, she had to go through psych evaluations to have that done, because obviously her having the psychosis, killing her kids, just coming out of surgery, and that being her first want, and it's just they had to put her through like 2 days of questioning and that's not like a high risk thing for them to do, to change over, especially since it was her parents.
Yeah.
But they still had to put her through like psychological evaluation just to make that decision.
So it's like, how did she pass that?
Because she was clearly in her right mind. Like the psychologist was like, obviously they waited for her to be out of anesthesia because she was confused and delirious at that point. And so they're like, okay, we hear you, but we need to wait until you're ready for actual psych evaluation once it's all, gone through your system. And then they did that, and it was clear that she was making the decision. She had her reasons for it. She was able to clearly explain her reasons. Her parents were like a everyday part of her life. So it wasn't they weren't like people just like coming out of nowhere to take over her healthcare decisions. And I guess the risk of him being in charge of her healthcare decisions outweighed. I don't know. They just basically they were the better choice, so they let her have it. But yeah, I think she was definitely worried that like he would prolong her suffering in some way if she were to start to code. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She just wanted to go. Yeah.
Yeah, she definitely did not want to live. Like, she definitely did not want to live. It'll be interesting to see what else comes out this week. I mean, we're still, like, they're in trial right now. Like, it's going to be going on for the next couple of weeks or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up coming out. More details are coming out hourly that are just being posted. Like, recording this, there could be something new that we don't know about right now. So it'll just be really interesting to follow along and see what comes of this. And like I said, like I just hope that if anything else, it promotes actual change in the US when it comes to postpartum and maternity leave and what is actually necessary for women's health and new mothers. I know this is a really dark episode, so I kind of feel like we need to like end this on a brighter note. Like, do you have anything fun and uplifting that you can share so that we're not ending it with like doom and gloom?
Well, so shocker. So I think I mentioned that we were gonna do like a toy. Oh yeah, last week we mentioned we are gonna do a toy rotation for Annabelle, and you were like, can you make space under her bed? Like you were like, can you make space? Under her bed for like toys, because I think you were kind of like, what are you gonna do, get rid of all of her toys or whatever?
Yeah, I didn't want to judge you, but I'm like, you can't get rid of all our toys. It's like, you gotta have something.
No, it's not ever, that's never gonna be a thing. But we did go downstairs to get 2 totes, which had like little mini totes in them that we can actually fit underneath the bed. And we were gonna do that on Saturday. That's when we went downstairs to go get the totes, and like we got everything ready, and then we went to go get like our energy out. So we went for like a little race walk. We're gonna come in and do that so I could have her full attention.
Right.
And on our way back, we're like walking up the stairs, and I saw a text come in from Kate, and she's like, do you want to have like a beach day or a pool day, or like is this way too last minute? And I was like, well, technically this was supposed to be a rest day for Annabelle and I, but it's 80 something degrees outside. So for us to just be inside cleaning out toys and resting / doing schoolwork is not really a thing. So I was like, what works best for you? And we ended up going to Hampton Beach and having a full-on beach day. And I packed like 2 of everything for snacks so that Cassie and Annabelle could share. So like we were prepared mostly. And then it was so funny because there were all these seagulls around, and they were just like, I guess seagulls in Hampton are used to like stealing food from people.
Yeah.
So there was this family that had 3 boys right next to us, and like the oldest boy had this piece of pizza in his hand, and the seagull came right up and stole this piece of pizza like right out of his hand and flew off with it. And then two seagulls were fighting him for this, so we got like a front row seat to this whole thing. And then the dad came over to talk to us like, have you ever seen something like that? Like, I've never seen that before. Like, I've seen it. We had a seagull steal an entire steak off of our grill one time when I was like little. Anyway, the kid was kind of bumming. He was like,
Wait,
hungry.
hold on. You just like really just like brushed over. You had a seagull come down and steal a whole steak off of your grill?
Steak off the grill.
Hold on.
Yeah. It was a very big seagull. It was actually a very big steak. It was a very big steak, and like my dad was so pissed. But the seagull
Pissed. That's an expensive.
Right. They just use their big little talons, and they pick it up, and like if it's heavy, they kind of drop down a little, and then they like get their strength, and they go back up. It's almost like an eagle or a hawk with something.
Oh my God. I wish that was on video. Because like back in the day, you're not there quickly with your phones or whatever.
No,
You didn't have
I
that
have it
shit.
ingrained in my head. My dad's like staring at this seagull.
My God, that is so good. And I can just imagine too, like going back in the house, like, well, we need to go out to dinner because we no longer have our steak.
Yeah, I guess we're going out. Yeah.
I love that. I love that story so much.
Yeah,
that's so good.
good.
I am no longer allowed to operate a grill because after the second time setting my parents' grill on fire.
What? That happened again?
I've done it twice.
Yeah.
So we've decided that it's just done. The time that you know of, that was the second time. The time before. Yeah.
You didn't tell me about the first time.
Well, because, I maybe didn't want to share that this was not the first for me.
We didn't learn our lesson the first time.
Yeah, so the first time it like happened, I completely disassociated that it was happening because I'm just like, what? Like, why is this happening? And I just walked away from it. And I went inside just very calmly. And I proceeded to have a conversation with my dad and brother. And then all of a sudden, midway conversation, I was like, oh, by the way, the grill's on fire. And my brother was like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's on fire. He's like right now? And I'm like, yeah, you should probably go check it out. He's like, what the fuck? And so he like runs out into the garage and he's having to like put out everything. He comes back, he's like, how did you just like casually, why didn't you just immediately? And I'm like, I had no explanation. I'm like, I don't know. I literally like legit disassociated from the fire, the flames in my face. And I'm just like,
how long ago was this?
last summer.
Okay, well, I feel like last summer, the grill was further out. It was like
then because we moved it because because of the fire incident. So then it was like, I don't know if it was like the summer after or a few months later. I don't really know. I'm not really the best with time. And so like, anyway, now fast forward, we move the grill to out back, like at least, things will be okay. And then I'm grilling and then all of a sudden like fucking shit happens again. catches on fire. And it was right around the time Mike had just gotten there. And I'm like, oh, you want to take this over for me? And he's like, sure. And it's literally like the whole thing is on fire. Yeah. I'm like, I think I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not fun.
It's not, but I don't remember why it caught on fire. What were we cooking?
You know what? Listen, I think it's a grill problem. It's not a me problem. I feel like I'm a really good griller, but that grill just was not able to handle what I was bringing to the table.
We do like a char.
I love a good char. But that was like a full-on cremation.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there might be an imbalance of like gas to fire.
Yeah. Oh wait, this is actually the third grill I caught on fire.
I was confused because I know that the first time last summer the grill was out like further from the house. So like clearly if the grill caught on fire, the house wouldn't catch on fire.
Okay? Well, then it was moved after because of that.
But then you moved it directly underneath the thing and right next to the garage. So like if the grill catches on fire, the house is going to catch on fire too.
Right.
So it's almost like a backwards learning.
Yeah, that wasn't a decision on my part. I didn't do that. But before the two incidences, I actually caught our grill here in Texas on fire. We weren't aware of it on fire. It wasn't until the next morning where we were putting clues together that something went down that we realized that the grill had like caught on fire. It had like there was a rag or something that was close to it, and I think it was like burning off the extra stuff, and then a spark must have hit the rag, and then I think it like caught it on fire, and then it burned the whole like bottom tray had completely like burned out or whatever, and then the fire just ended up going out on its own. I wish our Ring cameras were working because like we probably would have seen this huge flame, but it was like in the middle of, there was like this big concrete slab. So truly like there was really no place for the fire to go other than just being contained to the grill. And I think it just like caught on fire and then went out and then just fucked off. And then our grill like never worked and we didn't understand. That's why we were putting the cues together because our grill wasn't working. We're like, what is going on? And then we started looking, we're like, wait, where did all this stuff go? What happened? And then we saw like half the rag that was burnt to a crisp. We're like, oh, wait a minute. I think this caught on fire last night.
So like, I don't know how this all happens, but we need to like reverse it somehow so that we don't do it when we're actually cooking again.
Yeah, I just think that I'm like, I just don't need to be a griller. I'm okay with not having that skill set. I'm actually really okay with it. Like I'm fine being in the kitchen. I'll do the sides. I'll do like, non-grilling things. And I will prep stuff for the grill. Great at that. I just don't need to be around an open flame. I'm good.
No, I don't blame you.
I'm good.
I don't blame you. I actually have never really touched a grill. I tried one time and then I just was like, this isn't fun. So I ended it.
Yeah, it just, it's clearly not my forte, so it's fine.
No, I feel like there's a reason why it's the guys who are always flipping the burgers. Like, we put the skewers together, and then they're the ones who are cooking them.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that gender role.
I also don't ever feel the need to weed whack or ride a lawnmower.
It's like fun. It's like a golf cart. You know. I'll ride a four-wheeler, I'll ride a golf cart, I'll ride a lawnmower.
I'll ride a golf cart.
I'll ride a cowboy. I'm not going to cut some lawn. Anyway, I think we need to wrap this up. This is going to a different place. All right, well, shall we?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to tune in next week. Your support is keeping the podcast going. You can help by following, subscribing, rating, reviewing, and especially by telling a friend to listen anywhere or watch on YouTube.
For more info, you can check out our website at geriatricmamas.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at geriatric_mamas, on YouTube at Geriatric Mamas, X at Geriatric Mamas, and follow our group page on Facebook, Geriatric Mamas.
If you have a topic idea you'd like us to discuss, are interested in being a guest, or simply have a funny geriatric story to tell, you can go to geriatricmamas.com and hit be a guest or send us your story.